think we've had quite a bulk of the registrations joined us, so I think we might kick it off, Priyank. So look, hello to everyone. It's really great to have you all with us today. So obviously my name's Nicholas, if you're not familiar with me. I've actually recently been dubbed Cookie by the team in light of the fact that we now have two Nicks in the customer success team, and no one was keen on calling us both Knick-Knack, so instead they've started calling me Cookie. And with us today is the ever trustworthy Priyank. So good afternoon to you, mate. So Frank's one of our most experienced consultants, and he knows HRonboard like the back of his hand. So he's going to be guiding us through the session today, and he's going to be teaching us some of his tips and tricks along the way that he's picked up during his time here. So very excited to have him with us running through the content today. So during the session today, we'll be covering a number of topics, but please feel free to ask questions at any point. Because we do have quite a fair bit to go through, we're going to try and leave the questions for the end. But definitely please feel free to ask at any time, and we'll make sure to get to them. Even if we don't get to them in the session, we'll make sure to follow up with you afterwards. So if you ask a question, it will get answered either in the session or afterwards. We won't leave you hanging. And there won't be a quiz, no need to memorize it. We will be recording the session, and that will be available online afterwards. But what are we talking about today? So we're really excited about this topic. So it's something that's relevant to absolutely everyone, and it can really help keep the employee experience, both for your new employees, but also your existing ones, feel really personal with what they're provided. And it can also save time for all of your back office users. So you can provide this personal experience without taking the time and effort to really have to fill it in every time. We can provide the automation, and we'll be covering how you can store, update, revert, configure all of your documentation within the HRonboard platform. And there's really a lot that will be included in that. But first, before we get to all these specifics and everything that you see on the screen, we do need to make a bit of a distinction around the kind of an HRonboard environment you might have and how that will come into play with what we're discussing today. One of the main things that we need to explain is the difference between the load your own contracts and the dynamic contract builder. So each of our customers have one of these possible two setups. The goal state for both of these setups is the same: to achieve the highest level of personalization in your contracts as presented to your employees each and every time. But as I said before, through automation, we don't want you to be taking the time to have to put in the effort to make these personal each and every time. So load your own contracts means that you're in control of your templates and your contracts, and you can make changes as much as you like, as often as you like, to as many of those as you like. No restrictions, all in your control, but you have all of the tools from the HRonboard environment to provide that personal experience. Dynamic Contract Builder, on the other hand, means that we look after that for you. So we work with you to determine sort of the business rules that would dictate and decide the makeup of each contract and how they would look and appear. And we build automation on our end so that each contract follows those rules. So you can be safely assured that each contract will only include relevant information for each individual each time, all controlled by us. Anytime you need to update wording or review that at any time, you can let us know, but we look after that. So for both of these setups, they're really highly powerful in what you can achieve. They're really complex in what they can achieve, but they're not complicated to set up, and we'll be covering a lot of that today. So anyone who's using Dynamic Contract Builder can still use any of the functionality that we will be covering today. So this will be relevant to everyone, even if your setup is one of these two different ones. It's still all going to be relevant today. Now, if you're using one of these setups and you like to talk more about the other setup, that's fine. By all means, reach out to us, and the customer success team will sit down with you and talk with you about that. But today we're going to be focusing on the contract library functionality specifically, which again is relevant to both. So if you'd like to have a chat about the difference between these setups, let us know. We reach out separately outside of this session, and we'll sit down with you and chat about that for sure. But with that all said, I think I've waffled on enough. I think we'd like to get to some actual useful content here. So with that, I'll hand roll over to Priyank. And if you want to take it away and show us some of the tips and tricks you've got in store for us today.
All right, thank you, Nick. Welcome, everyone. I'm Priyank, as Nick's mentioned, and let's get started. I would directly jump on and then would like to talk you guys through a few of the things that we have for you. So this is probably the dashboard, as you all would know. I would just take you through what covers in the contract library itself. So as you can see, we have the offer pack, on which when you click, you can get the other options that we have available in the offer pack itself, which are contracts, policies, supporting information, internal files, forms, and the offer pack PDF. I would walk you through each of those individually and then let you know how you can use this to suit your needs. So in the contracts, this is where most of the action happens. As you can see, we have all the different types of contracts here, such as full-time, part-time, casual, and there's a volunteer letter as well. Now, these contracts are all the most important thing on why we have it here is so that you don't have to look into your work drives and find out what sort of contract to use. You can just leave them here, which are always marked up and ready to go depending on what type of offer and when you create them. And I will show you how you can select them when you're creating an offer in HOnboard. Now, one of the things to remember is the contracts here are managed by clicking on them. So once you click on it, it will take you to the details page. We'll wait for it to load. Yep, wonderful. So now that it's loaded, you can see that the file is actually attached in here, and then there is a condition area where you can probably limit the visibility of these contracts, and it says, yes, they are selectable in the document library. And with these contracts, we also have version controls. To access the version control, you can just click on history, and then it shows you how many iterations of it. In case you have made some changes and you want to go back to the previous version to see how it was or what was there, or for any other reason that you may have now. And the same thing applies to all of these contracts. Now, we have the second section as policies. So you can upload all the company policies here, and they are readily available for you when you're creating the onboard. So you don't need to go again and look in your folders and find out what policy is applicable or not. Again, the policies also allow you a similar structure, such as the contract library itself. We'll wait for it to load again. Sorry, it must be my internet. Working from home.
That's taking a break with the quarantine restrictions as well. It's being a bit relaxed.
All right, so here again, it's the same thing, and it does allow you to manage history as well. We'll move on to supporting information. So supporting information is anything and everything that you would like to be available for the employee or the candidate, but they don't need to mandatorily download and accept it. So it's more like an FYI for them. So like an employee handbook, all the amazing perks that they don't really need to accept that you may be providing them, they're all available here for you to select when you're creating an offer. Internal files, this is the area where you put in all the interview notes or any other employee details. It says internal files, so that just means that it will not be available to the candidate or the employee and only be available to the back office users for use. Next comes forms. So as you may know, there are a few forms that the employee or the candidate can fill in. You can see all the forms that are available to them on this page called forms, and it says which forms are managed by us and which forms are managed by you guys. So anything that says HOnboard is something like a global form that we take care of you. So anytime there's a change in the tax form or the super form, you don't need to worry about it. We get on top of it and we make the latest version available to you. And anything that says managed by you, which is, we can make changes to those forms as needed. And the last bit is the offer pack PDF. This is where you can select and choose what to download once the offer is accepted. And this is most useful for people who would like to download all the documents, relevant documents for a particular candidate once they've accepted the offer and you would like to file it away or maybe have it accessed and stored in a local drive to be viewable or shared across. So that's pretty much what the contract library is, and they can all be found under offer pack. Now I'll jump on and start showing you how from the dashboard and how you can utilize our placeholders in the contract library just for some markups. Now I have prepared a dummy offer here, which is just in time. Now, this is the dashboard, very aptly named for this particular occasion. Now, this is the dashboard where you can see what stage the offer currently is. And as you can see, it still says in preparing offer. And in the preparing offer, you can click on edit and send to take you to this page. Again, it totally must be my internet, so pardon me about that. Now, we have pre-filled in some information here for you to make it quick. And as you can see, this page has a lot of fields where you provide all that information, where you can select what sort of contract type it is, what department, what sort of position title, appointment status, and part-time. And all these information that you've provided or filled in here can directly be picked up in the contract. So that just makes it easier for you to include. And it's not, you don't need to manually enter for each one of them. So once we're here, we just click on save and continue to go to the next page where all our documents are available from the previous page that I showed you. On this page, this is the offer documents page. And as you can see, so all the contracts that were available in the contract under the offer pack can be accessed from here. As I mentioned earlier, you don't need to look for them in your files or need to decide which one you need. The latest version is always available here once you've uploaded them in H-On-Board. You can always drop your own documents. Let's say you want to download something, and I will show you how that works in a minute. The policies that we saw in the contract library are all available here depending on the conditions. If they have any supporting information such as Fair Work and any internal files that may be applicable to this particular offer. Now, let's get to the most important thing that we would like to cover. So this is the contract that was picked up. I've prepped it up for you guys. Now you can always see by clicking on it, and then it gives you, so you have two options for this. One says, sorry, I'll just go back for a sec. So it says review with the dynamic text highlighting, which I just downloaded for you. And then there's a final version. I'll cover both of them in a bit. So all the text that you see in red is actually dynamically being populated as part of the placeholders that we would have put in. So you can see that the name says just in time, this is the street address, and a few other details such as the company. And I'll just scroll down to show you guys and make it easier. All right, and then there's the acceptance, which just means that the candidate has not accepted yet. So it populates that. And then all the other details that we filled in the previous page. So how does this all work? I would quickly bring in the contract where the actual placeholders are marked in and how you can use them. So let's say you have this employment contract and you would like to know how you can auto-populate these things. The starting point would be to click on the Need Help button here, and you can just search for word markup and press enter. So it gives you the basic markup formatting and all the other types of markup that you can do. So we just click on markup formatting and it shows you how you can utilize these. So if we open the Word document that I downloaded, I will show you how these fields are all used in. Oops, for some reason it popped up on my other screen. All right, so just getting into it. Now, as you can see, all the fields that we have are showed in here, such as placeholders. So it says candidate name, which gets picked up from the previous screen. And we have the company name, company ABN, and all those details are automatically getting filled up depending on what sort of entity and company you've selected. And if I go down to the bottom to the schedule, we can see that similar placeholders such as company name, position title, location, hiring manager name and position, and all those fields are all included here depending on what we filled in the previous screen. All right, and that was just the basic bit. Now let's get a little advanced. So as I will bring up this document, as you know, I selected permanent part-time and then it shows 20 hours per week from my previous selections. Using contract library, you can actually utilize this to not have multiple contracts, and all of that can just be, so let's say you have a few different types of contracts for full-time, part-time, casual, fixed term. They can all be managed together using one contract, and I'll just show you how. So the previous one said permanent part-time, and then it had 20 hours per week. If you select full-time and we move on. Sorry, I just moved this around. So the minute we select full-time and we would like to change the value here to maybe 120, and then we can click on save and continue to show that. And when we click on this, it downloads the new form that is available for you to show all the latest information from that. And as you can see, it now says that it's a permanent full-time contract that has about 38 hours per week. So how does that work, and how does the system know what to do? To know more about it, you can just click on this Word markup and click on the advanced Word document markup, which explains how you can actually use a few of the things such as if else, and you can set those changes there, which is all available here for you to use. And I'll show you in the Word on how you can actually do it. So as you can see here, a few of these contracts are all marked. And then it says, if the appointment status is not equal to casual, because we don't want to put in the hours for casual in this particular instance. And then if we have the employment status as selected as part-time on that screen, then we show 20 hours per week. Otherwise, we just select and show 38 hours per week. And these conditions are all what helps us in showing and displaying the correct value. And using these conditions, we can just include the other options in one single contract rather than managing multiple contracts for different types of offers and statuses. Okay, now there are a few other options here that is available for you. So I'll quickly show you how you can do that. Sorry, that's not what I meant. So, okay. And then there's a formatting section, which tells you how you can actually utilize the numbers or use them to your advantage and make it work and look professional. So as you can see on the screen, yep. If I select 120, then it just has a value, and then you would like to add, assuming that, let's just say that the value is now $120,000 and it doesn't really have any decimal points or dollar symbol attached to it. We can directly include that, as it says here, based on the dollar value formatting. So what it says is, if you would like to include a dollar sign and would like to add decimal points by that, it says we need to attach a dollar before the placeholder itself and add hash, comma, and then define the format. And this will give us the actual decimal values showing up in the document. And I'll show you how that works. So if we go down here, we can see that I've put in a base salary with a dollar value. And then I've defined that please use hash and zeros accordingly. And then there's a comma to define where I would like the format to be. If we use hash, then it replaces that in case no value is available. And if we use zero, then it makes sure that the zero is always displayed, even if there is no decimal point applicable there. So as we can see here, it's $120,000. When I continue,
so I suppose the key takeaway from that as well is, as you continue to show, it's very highly configurable to whatever preference that you've got.
Yeah.
And we can really achieve a lot with this to make sure that these contracts reflect how you want them to show. We're not going to tell you how to do that.
Yeah. And again, as you can see that even though I just put $120,000, it's put a dollar, so, and then it's put the decimal points depending on, so it takes away the pressure of you inputting everything, and the system can configure and adjust according to your needs. So even if there are multiple different users and they have different styles of how they enter these values in the system, you can standardize that across to make the contract look more professional and I don't know, mature. Okay, that's one of the things. Now that we've covered that, there is a second version here which says final version sent to the new hires. So what that does is it downloads the same contract, but without the red highlights. Again, please bear with my internet. Wonderful. So now that's downloaded. It just makes sure and shows you how the contract will look from the candidate side. So you're sure about what the candidate gets, and then it has taken out all the red color formatting from the contract itself, just to make it clear on how it looks from the other side of things. And as we can see, that's pretty much, okay, so I'll bring it here. Now, this is where all those other contracts had red markup, but here we've directly covered that in. Okay, now we can go back and select a few different options just to show you how those things will work. And if we move into, let's say, casual, as you can see on the screen, the employment status of being full-time or part-time has actually gone away. That just means that for casuals, we would not like to define, and there's an hourly rate of $35. So once we've entered this, let's just change that to maybe 45.55. And when we move on to the next screen, you can see that the same contract, because of conditional formatting, can now include and accommodate the current setup. Sorry. Okay, wonderful. So where it said full-time and permanent, now it's removed all that and just put in casual, and where it was showing base salary, now it just says that the hourly rate is 45.55. And that is done with conditional formatting, as I showed to you earlier. So it just says if the appointment status is not equal to casual, then you do not show the employment status part-time of 28 hours. Otherwise, do not show the hours per week status altogether. And similarly, if it is not casual, then you show the base hourly rate, the base annual rate. And if it's casual, then you show the hourly rate with this specific format. All right, wonderful. So just moving on.
Yeah, so that's really, really good. So that's sort of the main thing that we want to focus with today, and what I think Priyank has shown just masterfully, is the level of personalization that you can provide, but not needing to really put in the hours and the effort each and every single time to provide that, but also that this can take away the need to have to maintain 20, 30 different document templates, rather than having to maintain them all. Each time you need to make a change to one, you need to make changes to them all. We consolidate that down, and it just becomes one easy to follow template. And as Prank's also shown quite easily with these test offers and these examples, you can very quickly start putting in information to sort of see how that presents. So if you're really not sure, because I can really understand that in those templates, having all those conditional formats and all those the if else and some of the almost coding language there, it can be a bit daunting and not exactly clear how it's going to actually appear. As Prank's shown, you can quickly just go through and use that template on the fly to really just go back and change information and change the fields, change the data, and how does that affect the contract?
Yeah. No, thanks, Nick. And I've kept it simple with the employment status and the appointment status, but this similar conditional values can be applied to your companies, your contract types, and all those things will help you manage around your contract and consolidate them into one, so that you have one contract that you need to manage moving forward. And all the help that you need is always available here with our integrated help doco, which you just click up and you can search for any type of markup help.
Absolutely. And I feel that the other thing that's really important to understand with this as well, and it's the same in sentimentality that we have across all of HR on board, is that we don't want to be locking you into any one particular way of doing things, or you're not restricted to specific fields, for example. So the examples Frank's shown have been really good indicators and just general examples of this functionality, really good examples. But that doesn't mean by any standards that these conditions, these else if concepts of combining casual, full-time, part-time, that's definitely the most common, but it's not the only one. Those conditional formats can be applied to absolutely any scenario that you need. If there's multiple options and you want to condense it into one contract, or it doesn't even have to be a contract. It can be a policy agreement that you need them to sign off on. or anything along those lines. So it's absolutely there to support whatever you're hoping to achieve that you need to share with the employee. It's not just the big things. It's not just this field or that field. It's not just pay or the type of role. This can apply to literally any piece of information that you need to share.
Yeah, thank you. And as I'm showing you now, so I know I may have confused some of you there with the if-else conditions that were already marked up in the contract. So in the word markup, if you select advanced conditional clauses, sorry, I'm always over selecting. So you can see that it really, so our help guide very clearly outlines how you can do this. So it says if any field name here, and then you have a value, then you can show a custom text. If you would like it to have, let's say you have 5 different options and you need to check for each one of them individually, you can just click on else if with the field name, as I was doing with the appointment and employment statuses, and then you can select for a second value and then so on and so forth. And once you've satisfied all the different conditions that you may have, you just close the if, and depending on the selection that you make here, on the screen, it automatically populates and displays the correct required value in your contract.
Which leads into another wonderful point as well, that this doesn't need to be very highly configured just to display the information that you fill in specifically. This means that with the contract templates, for example, you can have bodies of text or information entirely that have nothing to do with what you've specifically filled in. They are their own bodies of text, but they will only be included depending on what you've chosen in these fields and forms. So again, we're not trying to limit you to just what's available or what's on screen, for example. This can be applied to all kinds of other scenarios, and making sure that each contract is as personalized to that individual and their experience or their offer and what they're going through each and every time, but taking away the need for you to manually sort of sort through your documents and go, right, which one's relevant, what is relevant, what do I need to take out, what do I need to chop and change. And we're just trying to make that a much more streamlined and simple experience for you and save you a lot of time and therefore a bit of money. And I think everyone in the company will love you for that.
No,
but
thank you, Nick.
Just conscious of time, you got much more that you're looking to go through, Frank?
No, that's probably it. I just wanted to cover a few things in here on there are plenty of examples available on the help guide for you to use and how these conditions will actually work. So please feel free to go through them, and then that'll definitely help you out. Otherwise, you can always reach out to us as well. If you have any questions.
Yeah, so there's been a couple of quick questions that have come in.
Yeah.
So a really interesting question that I haven't really seen much about, honestly, but are we able to insert images using the word markup? Can you put images into the contract for whatever reason?
Oh, wow. That's a pretty interesting one. So yes, you can. The simple answer is yes, you can insert images in the word markup for whatever reason that you may need to. So in case you have multiple entities and you would like to change up the logo, I would just quickly prep it. So how you do it is within these conditions, it'll be good to just have a space. So as one of the sections in our help guide, I think it covers is, so to conditionally display images, all what you need to do is you need to put in your condition and then add a little extra space before and after the image and then close the condition for the images to show up according to it. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think it's a great question. I'd love to see more of those.
Yes,
Add a bit more personalization.
Yes, and the trick here is that the space, for some reason, so the space is what decides if the image can come, and this is not the, this is a very good question. Thank you.
Yeah, wonderful. So one of the other questions that's pretty apt, I think, is very, very relatable, is in the actual version control, what happens if you accidentally override the file? What happens if you upload a completely different contract template on accident when you're making changes?
Cool. No, that's a great question as well. So let me just quickly go back to the offer file section where I can show you guys how you can manage. So yes, definitely, if you've uploaded a completely different contract or a letter in this, so let's say we would like to change. As you can see, it says full-time employment contract, and I've accidentally deleted and added my webinar contract here. So we'll just let it load while it drags away. Mm,
Good old internet at the moment. I think everyone working from home,
okay,
it needs a coffee
great.
itself.
Yes. So let's say I've uploaded the wrong contract and I've saved it in. And then I go back. When I create the new offer, it still says full-time contract. But when we come inside the screen, okay, that was too quick, I guess. So when we come inside the screen, it just will load the new contract, and the name of the contract is part of the webinar one. But when we go into the history of it, you can see that this was the contract that I uploaded today as my user. And there are the previous versions which are available to you for download. So let's say this is the wrong contract. You can easily download the contract by clicking on download and then go back to the details and add the old contract that you that you definitely need because this was an accident. And this is how the version control helps you manage all the contracts that are available to you. And this way you have the history and you never lose the older contract that may be important at some point for situations like that. And then you can save it for the contract to become for the new contract to be available. And in the history, it says that I've done 2 uploads today. So again, all of those versions are readily available to you.
Awesome.
Wonderful.
Okay, one more quick question that's just popped in. There's a couple more, but I'm conscious of time as well. So what should I do if I can't see certain aspects of the offer pack? So they've obviously tried to access that on their back end, but they haven't really been successful by the looks of it. So what can they do, Frank?
So if you cannot access the offer pack here, that just means that you do not have the required permissions as a user to access the documents under the contract library or the offer pack. So you would need to reach out to your admin, your internal HRO admin, to give them the permission, to give you the permissions to be able to manage all the documents in here. And I can show you what permissions they are just in case. We have some admins here who would like to handle that. So you can click on admin and then user management, and you can select any role. And if you would like the user to have that permission, let's say HR, you need to give them the manage offer documents permission. This will enable them to upload or manage any of those documents in that section of contract library. So the users can then go in and then maybe add new documents, or there's been a change of role and then someone else is managing. They can always just manage all the offer documents from there.
Awesome. So clearly
Wonderful.
showing again how much we support. And in all scenarios, we want to make sure we're supporting what you want, not telling you how to do it. So that's great.
Yeah.
Like I said, there's a couple more questions, but I'm conscious of time, and we all have other things to do in the day. So I guess what I'd like to reiterate again is just how much this is applicable to everyone and your environments, regardless of whether you load your own contracts or dynamically built. And like I said, there's so much that can be achieved. That's really what we wanted to hit home with today, was to not only cover the basics, but to make sure everyone is aware of what is possible. So we're not expecting you to go off and make these configuration changes on your own straight off the bat. That, of course, if you want to give it a go, absolutely, we have those need help articles, but we're all here to help you with that as well. So any changes you're interested in making, and any possibilities that may have come into your head around, could we, start combining some contracts? What happens if we try to add this conditional information? If you're not sure how to do that, you're having any trouble, just reach out, let us know. Absolutely. And the biggest take home for us is to make sure that you have an easy and seamless experience throughout using all of Aitra on board, and every single offer that gets sent out is just as tip top as it can be and reflects your company's values and reflects how you want your contracts to appear each and every time without needing to have the burden of effort of making those changes each and every time. So that can also reduce, some human error sometimes, or some data error even, because you can basically take away the need for that customization or that manual customization. It's all automated for you, and that's what we wanted to take home today. There's lots that can be achieved. We just need to know about it. So I guess that, like I said, that's kind of my parting thought. Was there anything else that you wanted to touch on before we wrap up, Prank?
No, thank you so much, Nick. I think you've wrapped it up very well, and I couldn't have done any better than it by myself. So thank you so much, everyone. I hope this has been helpful.
Thank you, Frank, for sharing your knowledge. And well, thank you for everyone to attending. And as we mentioned earlier, we are recording or have been recording. We will be looking to upload this to YouTube, as we always have done. And we will share that link in the LinkedIn user group as well. Look, thank you for your time. We hope you're all really doing well. Please make sure you reach out to us for anything at all at this moment. If there's anything we can do to help it in this current climate that's a bit unfamiliar, just let us know. We're doing all kinds of things to try and help you out with whatever information you're hoping to share, and we're trying to make any and all considerations as based on your situation, because it's a tough times. We need to band together. So let us know, reach out, and we'll do whatever we can. Awesome. Thank you all for joining. And yeah, we'll wrap it up there. Go off and enjoy some lunch, enjoy the sunshine, hopefully. Go out for a walk perhaps, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, everyone.